Hello.
Hey, boo.
Hi.
How you doing? Look at you, looking cute.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Lady in red. Auntie Prudence, hello. Oh,
Red. I'm not wearing red today, so
you're wearing red
maybe
lipstick, though.
next
Yo.
time. Yeah, red lipstick. Thank you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just trying to fix this. I'm not sure. Okay, I think it's good. The
Yeah,
camera.
you good.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Oh,
How is it in the UK?
what do you mean?
How are you guys dealing with the whole lockdown situation?
Girl, I've
Perfect.
been in my apartment like this whole time, not going out. I go out
Yeah.
like once a week. But I should probably go out a little bit more because not trying to gain 20 pounds. So.
Girl, I've been gaining way too much weight. So, but I'm okay. Let's go. Going in the right places, so I'm not complaining.
Mm-hmm. What are you drinking?
Mm,
Girl.
mm. Hi,
I got
cheers.
mine. What is that though?
It's a breezer.
Oh, okay.
It's a cider. That's a nice cup.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome to stay. You don't have to go. You can stay. You don't have to go.
Who's trying to go? Who's trying to stay?
Is it your business?
Girl, don't worry. We shall talk after this live.
What's popping though?
Not much. Not much. How's your weekend going?
Is it a weekend? I don't know what day is
Is
it
it? I
is.
know. I don't know what day it is anymore these days.
Not sure.
Yeah.
How's your weekend going? Man, you're looking cute though. Like,
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
hey.
like really bad at makeup, so
No, it
I'm
looks
just kind of like,
awesome.
I
No,
had
it
to
looks
like call
great.
my sister and be like, so does this look good?
No, you
She's
look
like,
great. You look great. I would have told you otherwise.
this true, true. This is a highlight of my weekend, literally. Like I have nothing else to do. So
Right.
it's
Yeah,
been
I had to like gather up strength to like, I'm like, oh God, I have to go on live today.
yeah.
But yeah, so it's good. Like, oh
Um,
man, I'm so sad you're not in Calgary right now.
why?
Girl, there's so much shit going on.
What's going on in Calgary?
Twitter. You need to be on Twitter.
Twitter. What's going
Twitter,
on
sis.
Twitter?
Twitter.
What's going on?
Woo!
Who's Twitter? Are we
Names
not
are
putting
being
anyone on blast
dropped.
right now? Huh?
No, names are being dropped left, right, and center. Yeah. Yeah. Take a sip.
Okay.
Names are being dropped left and center
Right.
about
Calgary Twitter. About what?
predators and yeah, rape culture. Let me just put it as rape culture out there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that like a strictly Calgary like
It's
conversation?
literally just strictly Calgary so far.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And it's actually really bad. Like
So like people
people we know, their names are
experience.
being dropped.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, is right.
Can I join in on that Twitter conversation?
Sis, I mean, I just went on it and it's now been like private because it's gotten that bad.
No.
Yep. Like names are being dropped. Give me 1 second, okay?
Right, right. Hi guys, who is watching right now? Actually. Okay. Hi Amanda. Good to see you here again.
Yeah, so it's been great. I mean, shit.
Oh, thanks, Bookie. Sorry. Bookie's like, your makeup looks nice. I'm like, oh, thank
It
you.
does.
And you know how like bad I am with makeup, so
Bookie's on here? I didn't even see
Bookie
that.
is on here.
Hey, sis. I miss you. Miss Nigerian time.
I know I miss Lagos so much.
Oh
Since I
my
got back,
God.
I'm like, I'm so sorry for complaining about anything about Lagos, you know, like it was so lit.
It was lit. All the restaurants, all the lit restaurants we went. Oh man, some good restaurants in Lagos. I can't.
I know.
But yeah,
Rape
how is
culture. That's a conversation.
yes, it's a huge conversation and about consent. You were on live like a couple days ago. We were talking about sex education and consent, right?
Right.
So the thing like literally is around consent and like for me it's a gray area because of the culture that we live in.
Right.
Um, which really sucks because I feel like women aren't communicating enough.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and like, what am I trying to say? You know
Like
how, like,
maybe, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
you know how, like, there's situations where, okay, you know, you've been in this situation, you haven't, like, had a way to communicate and then turn around and say something else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about what not necessarily I'm not invalidating other people's feelings and or experiences. Like some of these things have happened, but then you know they're like bitter people. Like if some dude says no and now you're bitter and then you're not dragging the name.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a little bit of that too in there. So now it's like, okay, I'm not trying to say these women haven't gone through certain things, but as a feminist, I want to believe a woman first. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I've seen and known women who are literally putting people under the bus because they're hurt.
Because they're
So,
salty and they're just trying to be like,
right. So
right.
now it's just like, where do I stand? These are people that I know. Where do
Mm-hmm.
I stand in believing the woman or believing my friend? But you
Yeah.
don't live with your friend, so you don't even know if your friend is capable of these things.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I'm in a situation, people ask me, how do you feel about this? And I'm like, you know what? I can't say anything because I don't know. There's three sides to a story. That side, and the truth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm I don't know
Yeah.
how to feel. I don't know how to feel.
Mhm. Yeah. So we're just talking about the rape culture right now, mostly in Calgary because that's our hometown. Calgary,
Mm-hmm.
Canada. I haven't checked in on Twitter yet, but I should because apparently I'm missing out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, rape culture.
Hold on, I'm just trying to put a tag on here.
Okay. Oh, hi
So,
guys. Hi Dolly. Thank you. You're cute. Hi Nife. Oh, thank you. I love that emoji.
what the fuck? I'm trying to
Um,
tag this and it's not letting me
Hi
tag.
Chloe. Thanks guys. I tried today on my mid. This is literally the highlight of my Saturday. So yeah,
Oh man,
I
this is
had to
not
try
trying.
a little bit. So
She tried though. Guys, she's looking very fine. Like wine. Very fine. Okay, my tag isn't working, so I'm just gonna leave that
like, are you
there.
trying to pin it?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone know how to pin
No,
here?
I know how to
Guys?
pin, but the thing is, it's just not letting me pin. So let
Oh,
just,
okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
So
So,
apparently the conversation is that people are getting raped or sexually assaulted, but and they're talking about it now on Twitter.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And like it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But just the rape culture in general, you know what I mean? How do
Yeah.
you feel about that? Like, is there like situations, obviously where you live? Have you heard anything? Like, how is the rape culture there in the UK?
To be honest, I don't know too much about it, but I assume that it would be pretty. It would be like pretty. What's the word I'm looking for? Like prominent here.
Mm, mm-hmm,
Because there's just so many different types of people in London. Like there's so many, like there's blacks, there's Indians, there's Chinese, there's like white people, so many
mm-hmm.
different types. So I assume it will be like something to talk about. But a lot of times, like in the UK, like things are very subtle. So
Right,
they're very subtle. Like when like even dealing with like racism is subtle. Lots of
right.
things are subtle. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything yet, It's possible there were some cases at my workplace,
Oh.
like assaults and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I recently heard about that, and apparently the guy in question got fired. So there's that.
Well, that's the
But apart
thing.
from that, like, I don't know. So what are people talking about on Twitter exactly? Like,
One
are they
second.
like,
Fumi says, Ife, you didn't give a shout out. Hello,
"Hi, for
Fumi.
me.
um, it's just
Thanks for
like
joining."
situations where, like, when you go to a club and some dude is harassing you and not, taking no for an answer
Yeah.
and just, that type of situation. But then in my head, I'm like, okay, when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
uh, maybe I didn't know how to communicate to be like, no, you know what I mean? But like now, if some dude's gonna grab my hand, I'm slapping the shit out of him, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if this is one of those things where um, certain girls, not all of them, but some of them are maybe asking for attention. Don't get
Right.
me wrong. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not
That's a
saying
very controversial statement to make.
that's what I'm trying to say. Like I'm not saying
Right.
like, well, you're asking for this and this and this, but we're isolated. We have a lot of time on our hands.
Right.
So are we saying this to get attention or are we saying this to bring up awareness? Because there's a
Right.
difference between like awareness and now just doing too much.
Right. So is
And
it like you're questioning like how trustworthy these people are that are making these statements?
that's the thing, like I don't want to say where are the facts because there are a lot of things where you don't have facts, right? And
Right.
it's like you don't have proof, not necessarily facts. So you don't have
Right.
proof. So therefore, you're just going off he said, she said.
Right.
But now in the situation is like people are dropping names without their names in there. And it's just one person who's saying these things, right?
Okay.
Now, in my head, I'm like, if you want to raise awareness, you don't necessarily have to draw first and last names. You can draw first names, great. But
First and
now,
last names. Wow, this
first
is
and
very
last
deep.
names
How am
and
I not in this conversation?
and Instagram handles and like,
No way.
yeah, they're dropping shit. And I'm like, okay, now you're like purposely ruining somebody's life. Some of them, their
Yeah.
lives need to be ruined. That's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But now I'm in my head and I'm just like, oh shit, like I know this person,
Yeah.
you know? And in my head, I'm like, oh, that person wouldn't do that. But yet again, I don't live with them. So
Yeah,
how
so
do you
you never
really
really
know?
know.
How
Yeah.
do you really know? So now
Yeah.
I'm very, very confused as to where I stand. And like I said, as a feminist, I want to believe a woman first, you know,
Yeah.
and then ask questions later.
Later, yeah.
But now I'm like, okay, I need to ask questions. I need to know what's going on, who's doing what. But then
Mhm.
at the same time, it's not my business. You know
Right.
what I mean? So I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like sitting there like, how am I supposed to feel? I really don't get it. I really don't get it. I'm just, it's very, very, I want to send you the name on Twitter, but now it's all private. So, like,
Oh,
I can send you screenshots of what I've seen, but
please.
it's just
Please.
ridiculous
Um,
because, yeah.
okay. I mean, yeah, I think the bottom line is that you never really know. You
Hmm.
never really know what's going on with people. You never really know how people are.
Hmm.
Because there's this whole persona thing that we're dealing with. Like, there's a persona for everything. Like, work, when you're at work, you're a different person. When you're home, you're, a different person. When you're with your friends, you're a different person. So you never really know, right? Um,
Exactly.
I've heard some stories though in Calgary, even prior to this, about like guys that do these kind of things.
Hmm.
Um, Experiences and all of that. Yes, we are
Yes, we
talking about the
are.
thread on Twitter exposing Calgary
Yes.
men for
Yes.
sexual assaults and rape culture.
Rape culture.
Wait,
Hmm.
but is it just men or is it like women as well?
It's so far it's just been men.
Right. Right.
So now that's another thing, because in my head I'm like, I know some predators who are women. So why
Right.
aren't we dropping their names, you know?
Right.
And it's just in my head, oh man, that shit sucks. It really, really sucks. Um, because like I said, we know some of these people.
We know
And
some
I
of these
know,
people. Mm-hmm.
yeah, you know what I mean? And I know them to be good people. They haven't made advances at me, but I can't say that they haven't made advances at other
Other
people.
people, yeah.
So I can't really put my 2 cents in it as being like, no, I trust this guy. I
Right.
trust, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I'm like, oh shit, no comments. At this
Mhm.
point, no comments. Does
Right.
being a feminist, believing the woman first, even what? Even without not necessarily, because a lot of women don't have proof about things that go on. You know what I mean? Because A, they're too scared to share it at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then, by the time they want to share it, the proof is gone.
The proof is gone. It's too late.
It's too late. So being a feminist and being a woman that's gone through things like that,
Right.
I understand that you don't have proof to say that you were done wrong.
Right.
So that's what I mean about being a feminist and understanding a woman first and then believing a
Mm-hmm.
woman first, because shit happens, you don't have backup, but you know it happened. And then
Mm-hmm.
you to tell somebody that and them to invalidate your feelings,
Right. Right.
that sucks. So that's what I mean about, being a feminist and understanding that. Um, so I don't want to involve myself in any of it because I just don't. I really
Probably
just don't.
wise of you to do that because
Yeah, I just don't want to involve myself in it. And like people are calling me and asking me questions, and I'm like, no comment, no comment, no comment. Because as soon
and
as
you know
you,
what though? These are like people's experiences as well, right? Like you can't there's nothing you can do
hmm
about like if someone's telling you this is what I experienced with this person. You
hmm
know, I mean obviously it's up for us to like question their intentions behind it,
hmm
but you know, their experience is their experience regardless. Like
exactly,
it's valid, right?
they're valid. So
Yeah.
whoever is saying what, their experience is valid, their opinions are valid. So I can't sit there and be like,
Be
you're
like,
wrong.
yeah. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. But yeah. Other than that, isolation has been kind of good.
Interesting. Do you have some of the Twitter juice?
I do not, because everything has been deleted.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, I
two
was just
sides to
gonna
every
see
story, so I give them benefit of the doubt. There's three sides to every story.
three sides.
Three. That person's sides, the other person's sides, and the truth, because everybody can fabricate their
Yeah.
words. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Um, and based on your brain, you can just say a bunch of stuff. It might mean like it makes sense to you, but not make sense to the other person.
Right.
Um, but yeah, done with that little bit of
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. Um, how is like the whole like COVID-19 in the UK news wise? Like, are they freaking you guys out? Like they're freaking us out over here?
Girl, I think everybody's freaked out right now. Like, I am not watching the news, so I do
Mm,
not know because I'm
right,
protecting my peace, as you know.
right. Yes.
So yeah, I don't watch the news, but you know, people like I went outside the other day to get some groceries and I saw people like all over the streets of London and I'm like, "Why are you here? Why are you trying to
hmm
touch me? Don't touch me. Just
Don't touch
move
me.
along." Like so many people in one spot at the same time and these are people that are going to like make sure this thing doesn't end soon
Right.
enough because like just stay home like normal people would,
hmm
you know?
hmm
But yeah, so it's been a whole thing. But so far I've just been in my apartment chilling.
Just chilling.
Yeah,
Just
drinking my
chilling.
wine.
Drinking your
Here's to
wine.
Saturday. It's your birthday next week, right?
It is. It
So what are
really
you doing
is.
for it? Are
I
you
think
gonna
we're going to be on live, and I'm going to ask whoever wants to come on to take either shots or sips with me. I feel like I'm gonna get dressed up,
Okay.
you know.
Okay. So can we take a shot of wine? Because that's all I have in my
That's
apartment.
fine.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So what do you guys want to talk about? Hi, Violet
Hello,
Toronto.
Violet
Good to
Toronto. How's it
see you.
going? Um, what do we want to talk about? I had
Can
so
we talk
many
about
things.
relationships?
Oh, 100%.
That's always like the hot topic of life
I'm
ever.
down. What about relationships though? Because there's so many different like things to say.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with like, will you date an ugly guy or like someone that's not like or people would consider ugly. I don't consider anyone ugly. I think that everyone's
I
beautiful
do.
inside.
Girl, bye. We know some
So
ugly people. Stop it. Okay.
so let's just say, what's that word now? Like, is it aesthetically challenged people?
Wow. Wow. That even
That's
refers to more than ugly.
is
You
it
have to
though?
be ugly.
What?
Aesthetically challenged. That's rude. In
I
fact, that's fucking rude. That's so fucking rude.
People say it though.
That is so rude. Okay.
Well, okay, let's not try to put people in a box here, okay? Let's just people that are not up to your standards of
Okay. Of beauty?
or something. You know,
Aesthetically challenged. I'm so fucking
people say
upset.
aesthetically challenged. That's a
I'm
real thing.
obsessed.
It's
I'm
not my thing.
obsessed. I'm obsessed. I feel bad for them. Okay,
I
okay, okay.
know, but it's better than ugly, and it's okay. You know what? Let's just say people that are not your type, like people that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. So,
Somebody said I would rather be called ugly. Thank you,
oh my,
please. Yes,
okay,
aesthetically challenged. Sis, that's really, really, really offensive.
I know. Okay, but people say it though. People say it.
Okay, I mean, those people are assholes, first of all,
For
but
sure
it's
they
cool.
are. They are.
It
I
happens.
agree. I agree. I agree. So let's just say,
Anyway.
would you date? Because sometimes we see like women, and usually they date like a certain type of people.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they get married, they don't marry. Um,
Okay, I think I
you
get what
know.
you mean. I get what you mean. I get what you
Um.
mean.
So yeah, let's talk about that.
Would I date somebody who was aesthetically
Don't
challenged?
use that. You literally said don't use that word. So let's not use that word because apparently it's offensive.
Okay, would I date somebody that's ugly? Honest to God, or honest to the universe, it depends on what that person can offer. You know what I mean? I mean, and I don't. I don't want to say I'm not attracted to other people, but
Okay.
like I've had situations my friends are like, really? That's who you're dating? You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, he's nice. He's home trained,
Right. Right.
he's God fearing. He is or she, is just a great human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's really what's important because I know some really good looking people who are assholes.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
You know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like even if the person is extremely good looking, I probably wouldn't
Right.
because there's insecurities that come with that.
Okay, so I've had a conversation with a friend recently about that, and
Hmm.
basically she was saying like, um, that people that date people that are not as good looking, I guess, as they are, or people that get married to those people, um, they do that on purpose. They do that because they dated like good looking guys, and usually they just
Hmm.
don't try
Hmm.
they don't try to chase them, they don't try to fight for the relationship,
Right.
they just don't
Right.
try, right? So a lot of times, women just don't want to have to deal with that,
Yeah.
right?
And then
And
that's
then yeah, Sorry.
No, I was just reading. Beauty is pretty easy icebreaker, but they need to have personality to stick around with. Exactly. And then
Agreed.
somebody says, alternatively, oh, beautiful.
Me
That's
too.
a better word.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what? I like that one.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a good word.
but yeah, story
A good
continue.
phrase. Yeah. So they just don't try because like people like it's kind of like a very vain and um
Mhm.
superficial world that we live in. So
Yeah,
when you see like good looking people, you just automatically trust them because like
right.
obviously like in the eyes and blah blah blah, but you don't understand that they should actually be working
Mm-hmm.
to gain your trust and to value you. And so
Exactly.
what do you think about that? Would you get married to someone that's alternatively beautiful or
I feel like it's that's really the crazy part, like this society that we live in, right?
yeah.
Even watching the show, 100 Humans, I don't know if you watched it, but they had like this whole situation where they posted, these are actors, right?
Hmm.
And they're like, okay, one person is alternatively beautiful, and the other person is gorgeous. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And they committed the same crime, but the good looking people got less time because they were good looking.
No way.
Yeah, if you watch the show, it's great. 100 Humans on Netflix. Everybody go watch it. And
Right.
they like put you in situations where you're like, okay, do you think you're pretty or not? Like, you know what I mean? They just test you. So, as sad as it sounds, that's exactly what it is. But I married somebody who was aesthetically challenged, alternatively challenged. I'm sorry. I would say possibly because the
Yeah.
fact that it depends on what that person bring on the table.
Right.
And am I feeling secure in every way, shape, or form? Um, am I mentally checked? You know what I mean? Those
Hmm.
things, as sad as it sounds, come with people who are alternatively beautiful because good looking people just don't give a shit.
Right. Like
They don't give a shit.
I think we should just focus on the strength of their character
Yeah.
as opposed to how good looking they are. But then obviously what draws you in is how attracted you are to them, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I mean there's that.
And
But
people always ask, like, what's the first thing you see when you meet somebody? You obviously attracted to what they look like. You know what I
right.
mean? You
Hmm.
don't you don't know who that person is when you first see them. You're like, oh, that person's hot. Like, let me talk to him or her.
Right.
And then you find out either they're good people or not.
Right.
So it's just visuals. We're humans. We're attracted to certain things. Everybody's attracted to different things.
Hmm.
So like, or different people. So when we see somebody, it's usually what they look like is what we're attracted to.
Right. Right.
And then everything comes after. And
Hmm.
when people say, do you believe in love at first sight? I do not, because no, I'm sorry. Love at first sight is not love at first sight for me personally. I think it's infatuation at first sight.
Right.
You know what I mean? You may then learn to love them after. Like talking about arranged marriages. Do you know how many people are actually arranged marriages and end up loving the person after they've been arranged?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh,
Because
my
you
parents
learn to
arranged me.
love them. You
You
learn to
learn
love
to love. You learn to love. You learn to hate. Everything is learned. So when you're sitting there and be like, oh, it's love at first sight, no, you're lying to yourself because you don't love that
right.
person. You don't know that person to love them. Like, what is love to you? That's the question. What is love to you, Ife?
To me,
Mm-hmm.
um, love to me is patience.
Mm-hmm.
Love to me is care. Bears no record of wrong. Pretty much everything it says in the Bible.
Right. Okay.
That's love to me.
Okay.
Um, so and it's just understanding how to love me
Right. That's the
and
one.
willing to learn how to love me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what love is, and vice versa. Because obviously, I have to learn this next person as well, right? So that's what it is. But would you tell your secrets to okay, so I was watching the Skinny Girl in Transit show.
I heard about it.
Yeah, so recently, have you seen the new episode or do you watch it at
No,
all?
I have never even like laid eyes on it. I've just heard about
Right,
it.
right. So, yeah, so in the end, it was this girl telling her partner things that happened in her previous relationship.
Mm,
And so I was having a conversation with my friend, and she was like, "Well, is it okay, like, to tell your new partner all the like toxic things in your previous relationship and how your partner, you know, um, how you no spoilers, and how your partner kind of dealt with the relationship, like all the
mm-hmm,
bad things that happened. Like, is it okay to tell them? And if not, like, if it is, then when is it okay to tell them?" For me,
mm,
um I feel like telling them at the start is not okay. Like, I feel like everyone should earn your trust,
mm-hmm,
because what I'm the most worried about is they could use certain things that I tell them against me
mm-hmm.
in my moment of vulnerability, so they could use that against me. And that's
100%.
that's like the fastest thing that could make me like close up like real quick.
Right.
So so when do you think it's okay to tell your partner?
Honestly, I don't think it's anybody's business until when I'm like, okay, we're gonna make this for real.
Right.
You know what I mean? If
Mhm.
I'm just dating you, it's none of your business to know about my past unless I choose to tell you. If
Right.
now I decide like, oh, it's a lifelong commitment,
Mhm.
then I'm going to be like, okay, this is what's popping. You know what I mean? You don't want to now get surprises later on in your life where it's just like, oh, this happened because of that, and you didn't explain it to me, so therefore we're fighting. You know? Um, but if I'm just dating you and it's just for fun, it's none of your business. It's really none of your business. If I'm just like, okay, this person is serious, we're gonna get married and all that stuff, I'd be like, let's have a sit down and talk about past traumas. And are you
Talk
able
about our
to
feelings.
talk about our feelings? Are you able to deal with these things?
Yeah.
If not, please, the door is that way.
Right.
Because now I'm not about to now sit there and give you all of me without giving you actually all of me.
Mhm.
And then later on, you find out, oh, somebody told you from Adam and Eve that this happened. And now I have to defend myself. I don't want to have to defend myself to somebody that I trust and love. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like, I need you now to be on my side.
Right.
So if I tell you, but that's another thing comes with trust because I've had people that I trust and I say something and then they've been spiteful and use that against me.
Mhm. Mhm.
you know so then that's where the trust issue is for me. So I
Yeah.
have to truly love and trust you to share certain things with me.
Right.
And I don't know, so the right time for me would be if I know this is going to be a lifelong commitment.
Commitment.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Fair
Other
enough.
than that, it's none of your business.
What about healing? Like,
Healing.
a lot of
Oof.
people go into relationships and they
Hmm.
haven't healed from their previous ones, and they just jump in like to the next person, and
Right,
they're passing all this baggage to the
right.
next person. So what do you think about that? Like, do you think that
um
it's
I mean, because I've done this. Like my last relationship was just like, okay, leaving from one hurt to the next, and not necessarily making him pay for it, but like he got a great deal of my pain from past relationships. I mean, we
Mhm.
talked about it, but this was like in the beginning of the relationship, it was just like, I don't trust you. But why? Because this guy did this, so therefore you're
Right.
gonna do it.
Mhm.
And I think that you need to be honest with yourself. And that's hard to do,
Right.
especially when you want to forget something.
Right.
It's hard for you to now come to terms with it. And that's the thing you need to do is come to terms with the fact that you went through what you went through, deal with
Mhm.
it, understand it, feel it, and then let it go.
Mhm.
you know. But if you sit there and you're like, oh, whatever had happened, it is what it is, life goes on, you're not really dealing with it. It's just on the back of your mind. And
Right.
eventually, in situations like this where isolated, that is going to come to the front of your mind. And you're going to
Mhm.
deal with it eons later when you should have dealt with it at that moment.
Or you
You know what I
couldn't, and
mean?
you could just keep passing it on.
And that's
Until,
exactly, you just keep passing on to the next person that comes into your life, and you're just
right.
like, oh, well, you're projecting your insecurities on this person, making them feel bad about themselves when it actually has to do with just you.
Right.
So I feel like with that situation like that, you need to be honest with yourself 100%. And if you're not honest with yourself, you're not honest with other people.
Hmm.
So um, know where the hurt is coming from, what triggered that hurt, and deal with it.
Right.
If you need to cry it out, cry it out. If you need to like sit in your room for days, sit in your room for days. If you need to write it out, write. If you need to sing, sing. But like deal with it first.
Know
So you
your
can
triggers.
know your triggers. Exactly. Deal with everything first before
Communicate.
you now project that on other people. It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair to other people because they got their own shit going on and now you're adding yours on top.
Right.
So that's what I feel about that. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think we should heal from it
Mm-hmm.
before moving on to a different relationship. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important. I think it's important to write things down, write your feelings down, reflect on
Mm-hmm.
them, process it, heal from it, and move on.
And
Um,
move on.
and then also, even after you've moved on, like there are still things that will come up.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, like when you get triggered, sometimes you still have these, most of the time, you still have the memories, even if you've healed from it. And I
Yeah.
think it's just important to know your triggers, communicate when you are being triggered
Mm-hmm.
to your partner. It's very, very important to communicate. Um,
But then your partner also has to understand what triggers mean. Because I've been in a situation where it's just like I told somebody I'm triggered right now and they got offended. You know what I mean? But like, what am I doing to trigger you? And,
yeah, but it's not about them. That's what
Yeah.
they need to understand. It's about you. We have a question or a statement. I think it's possible for someone to help you heal. Healing doesn't have to be done
You're
alone.
right. You're
Yeah,
right.
to a certain level,
That's,
yes, it
yeah.
is, but
To- um,
you still need to go through that process
You need
alone
to
to
do your
some
own work.
degree. You need to do your own
Mm-hmm.
work. You can't rely on somebody else to heal you.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't work. You need to heal for yourself
You
as well.
need to
Even
heal.
if you're in a relationship at the moment, you can still heal in that relationship as long as the person's understanding and the
Yes.
person's supportive. But as long as you're not also pushing that your baggage on other people,
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship as well. But yeah, no, for the most part though, I think it's a personal journey. I think it's
It is
something.
a personal journey, and it also comes down to communication, where is you tell that your partner, be like, listen, I've been through this, and you need an understanding partner, as if I just said, where they know when to not bother you if you're going through something. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you're just like having your moment, be like, okay, I need some time to go
Mm-hmm.
through this right now. It's a thing, and that is what you mean by like it's not done alone because that person is technically helping you heal because they're not bombarding you with other shit.
But
You
in
know
the
what I mean?
process, sometimes like you could be healing, but like you could also be passing on your toxic traits even from the
Mm-hmm.
healing to this
Mm-hmm.
person. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to be very careful when you're doing it with someone else.
Agreed.
Someone's asking, how do you know when you recovered? Um,
Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like personally, how I know I recovered from from my trauma is when I'm happy for somebody else. For you know what I mean? Where it's just like somebody who has hurt me in the past is now doing good, and I'm like, oh,
right.
good for them. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like, oh, screw this person. I hope they burn and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That's how I know I've recovered personally because I'm like, oh, good. Like they're doing good with their life. It's great. Can I go buy
And it's
some
not,
ice cream now? Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like doing shit without feeling hurt
right.
about that situation is how I know I've recovered. Um, so I mean, everybody. recovers very differently.
It's different with everybody, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's when you think about the relationship and you're like, okay, like these things happened and I've learned from
Hmm.
them and I've grown from them. And it's just a matter
Hmm.
of like when you look at the situation and the person and you're like, you just feel neutral.
Yeah.
You don't have any hurt or pain
Her
left
bad
over,
feelings towards
no
that
bad
person.
feelings. Like you might not necessarily be happy for the person, or you might not be sad. You're just
Hmm.
there. You're just neutral. You're
You're
like, okay,
there.
I've processed this. I have peace.
Right. I
You know
had a
what I mean?
situation where I was seeing somebody for a little bit. It just didn't work out, and it wasn't like bad or anything. And I recently seen him in a relationship with somebody else. And I was like, yo, I'm so happy for you. Like, you look great. You look happy and all this stuff. And homeboy called me right away and was like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, bro, like, I wish you all the happiness in the
All the
world.
best.
Like, it wasn't me, but that's great. Like, I'm glad you
Right.
found happiness.
Exactly.
And he was like, well, a lot of girls wouldn't even say that. And I'm like, that's not me. Like, at the end of the day, as long as you're happy, that's it. You're great. You know what I mean? You
Whatever.
are going to move mountains. Just do you at the end of the day. As
Right.
long as you're not hurting people on the way up, you're fine.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
think that's how I really feel about covering.
So
Um,
he's asking if you're ready for the next relationship.
um,
Hey.
are you ready for the next relationship?
Girl, I was ready yesterday.
Yeah,
Girl. Be like that
yesterday,
sometimes.
last week.
Last week. I was
Yeah,
ready
I
last
mean,
week, y'all.
definitely ready for the next relationship and the right relationship. It's not
Right.
necessarily just any relationship. I'm ready for the right relationship.
Yeah. That's
Something that,
important.
yeah, it's very important. Something that's going to help me, like, I can help myself, but somebody that is going to now be my cheerleader slash manager slash fan. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be there for me. And hi, Booney. So, like, that's the relationship now I'm looking for, is somebody to be my partner. And partner in
Companionship.
every sense of the
Yeah.
word partner.
Right.
Not my spouse, not my boyfriend, not my girlfriend, my partner.
So
And
do
I
you
mean,
believe in do you believe in a 50-50 relationship?
yes, 100%. As Nigerians say, it's 50-50, no cheating.
50.
So, like,
Okay.
50
Yeah.
50. So,
Because
like,
some people, I guess for us, because we live, outside of Nigeria, for us
mhm,
it's a little different because like people don't really think that way. Like, oh, the guy has to pay the rent or the guy has to pay the
mhm.
mortgage or whatever. But there's still a lot of people in Nigeria that believe in this whole concept of like a relationship that's the guy's
Well,
the provider.
I mean,
Yeah.
even it's still even on this side of the world. It's a thing. I read a book. Oh, Think Like a Man. Have you read that book?
Yeah, no, I've watched the movie though.
Okay, the book is actually really good, but there's like
Right,
parts that I had issues with because there are three P's they talk about, which is provide, profess, and protect.
right,
And I don't think a man needs to provide everything.
right.
Protect, I don't think a man has to protect everything. And I don't think a man needs to profess everything. I feel like it should be a situation where you profess your love for each other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if you have the money, you provide for your family because you're a
Right,
family. When you get married, you're a family. It's
right.
not even if it's just you two, it's a family. And and protect. Like, you have to protect each other.
Protect
I
other.
don't feel like a man needs to do all that work. I feel like it's very, very taxing and very selfish for somebody to now say you have to do all these things because you're a man. And that's where the whole toxic masculinity comes from. You
Right.
know what I mean?
This is true.
So
Mm-hmm.
you sitting there and you're like, oh, dude, you have to pay the rent, you have to do this, but aren't you working too? there's also a difference where if you're an arranged marriage and the dude is making money and you're supposed to be a stay-at-home wife, that's a whole different situation, right? But
Right.
if we're talking about the Western world, we're all
Hmm.
working.
Right.
We're all working. So why can't you do just as much as he's doing?
Hmm.
And I feel like at that point you're just lazy and you just want a handout. You know what I mean? Like you're just like a girl sister from proud family, just give me your money. You know what I mean? Just give me your money. That's it at
Hmm.
that point. But if you're going to work 9 to 5, you know what I mean? And homeboy or homegirl is going 9 to 5, you need to put those things together as a family.
Yeah.
With
Agreed.
that being said, though, there are situations where this is also the old toxic masculinity where men also want to feel big. So therefore, they're like, I'm going to be the one, I'm going to be the bread, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like a Nigerian, African in general,
Mhm.
like kind of what's the word now? I lose my words after like 7 p.m. So like
I hear you. It's fine.
but yeah,
Provide.
like it's in the situation, it's an African concept that like people, the men are the providers and the women
Right.
are workers, and that's great if that's what you want to do in your relationship. Like, no,
That's
I'm not
great.
stopping you. It's just not my thing. It's just not something I would do. Like, I wouldn't quantify the 50-50 as like a thing where it's like, okay, you have to split everything literally 50-50.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you have to measure like someone's strengths and their weaknesses. So
Hmm.
basically, if I'm weak in something, like my husband's stronger in that thing, then I
That's
would
the
give
thing.
him the, you take it, this is,
You
take the
take
lead in
it.
that thing.
Exactly.
And vice versa. So it's not like 50-50 for everything. It's just a matter of what works for you both. Like, if
Hmm.
my husband's working, he's making twice as much as I am, and
Hmm.
they say we should travel together for his
Hmm.
job, and my job is something that I could get anywhere,
Hmm.
I'd go with him, because I'm like, okay, like, he makes more, obviously, so I do what's best for the family
Right.
in the general sense,
That's
so if that means moving with him, I will do it. If that means, whatever it means. But
hmm
yeah.
I think that that's very, very important. It still comes down to communication.
Right.
When you sit there and be like, okay, I know a lot of people who don't like to talk about what they make with their spouse, which is stupid because now you're like hiding, like, oh, I make X
Hmm.
amount of money, but you
You
don't
have
need
to
to
be
know that.
transparent. You
You
have
have
to
to be
be transparent.
transparent. And I also believe in having different accounts as also having the same account. You have your account, he has his account, and you have a joint account.
Right.
So you have to be transparent enough to show that's love for me.
Right.
Transparency is love.
Transparency, honesty.
Transparent. You know what I mean? Honestly, be like, guy, I made like less than I was supposed to do last week. So
Yeah.
what's going on for the next couple of months? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're literally taking care of the family at this point. Money
Married
is
someone
number
said.
one cause of
Yeah.
divorce. I mm, kind of believe that. Um, kind of, because money is very, very important, and it does cause a lot of troubles in relationships when you're not transparent,
Right.
when you're not honest,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and I believe maybe in, like I said, I don't know about other African countries, but Nigeria, money is a big issue. Is a
Like,
big
the
issue.
the women expect the men to have all the money,
Right.
but they forget that they're like, when you
They
go to
have their own
school, you go to
job.
high school, you go to university, you
Hmm.
finish, you're all struggling at the same rate at the same time to like get work or to do something with your lives, and there's this
Hmm.
pressure on men in particular to be like, the providers and the supporters, and then they
Hmm.
they go into like different things. They go into 419, they go into like illegal stuff sometimes,
Right.
or they just put so much pressure on themselves and they don't know how to express it, right?
And I
So
and
it's
I've literally been um part of that at one point being younger, and I feel like we forget that men actually have feelings. They go through things
let's
just as
talk
much
about
as
that. Let's
we
talk about that
do.
for a second. Is it
Yes,
okay, this
they.
whole situation with men, and like how men
Mhm.
cannot express themselves, and how they're not vulnerability is not a thing for them, like,
Right.
because they're not allowed to express themselves. Like, be a man, be a man. Like, that's a terrible
You
statement.
know, rub,
That's a terrible statement.
rub some dirt in it, like pull
You
up your
know.
pants, you're good.
Mhm.
And I feel like we forget that sometimes because we're like, oh, he's a man, he'll deal with it. You know what I mean? Because he's not showing how he really feels.
Mhm.
So now we're just like, oh, well, this guy is so much stronger than I am. But you don't know that he's eating him on the inside.
Yeah, and for
You know what I
me,
mean?
yeah, I agree. For me, like, I feel like when men cry in front of me, that's like, I
That's
love
a
it.
whole, I love it. Yo,
That's
you
a
don't
whole next
understand.
level.
I'm almost like, I love you even more because you showed me
you
who you
know,
really are.
you know what I mean? That's like
Yeah.
next level, like, and it's
Hmm.
very important. And there are some girls that are like, oh no, you have to show strength, and you have to, like,
Hmm.
nah, boo, like, cry though, like,
Crying is
like,
strength. Crying
crying
is
is
strength.
cathartic. It's amazing. It's, just cry, and I'll be here. I'll support you.
Hmm.
Just cry
Just
all over
cry.
me.
It's okay. I'll hold you. It's fine.
Yeah.
Someone says trying to get emotions from a Nigerian guy is like getting water from a brick wall. But I told my mom it's because of how they're brought up. Even girls, is how we're brought up. And someone says, Bucci says, I think we're influenced by what we're exposed to growing up and what we know. Exactly. We are a product of our community. We are a
Hmm.
product of what we are raised by. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it takes you to be emotionally mature, mentally mature, to sit there and be like, oh shit, like this is not actually how I feel. This is not how I think. Let me go
Yeah.
through my thoughts and decipher what's going on. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Someone says, do you think that as a generation, men and women, we have a responsibility to help each other unload those baggage that come with growing up in a typical African home? No, I think it's your job as a human being. I don't think that we need to um, rely on other people to help us grow and help us heal. Like you were saying, if I like, you need to literally do your own work,
Do your own work.
and then if that person, your significant other, feels like, okay, I can help you, that's great.
Yeah.
But don't put that pressure on your significant other to do that, because now, if
Because.
then
Hmm.
that person can't do it, you're gonna grow resentment towards that person. You know what I mean? So if you now be like, oh, but my partner said, oh, is going to, or she's going to help me heal, you're fooling yourself.
And you're putting that much, like, responsibility for it onto
For that
someone else
person.
that you could
Yes.
be, doing yourself. And it's just, it's too much to ask somebody for, in the
Hmm.
grand scheme of
It's
things.
not,
Like,
it's
you
selfish.
need to
It's very
heal
selfish.
first. You need to love
Yeah.
yourself first. Like, I'm a very big believer in self-love and self-care, and just, you
Hmm.
need to do the work, because you need to be self-aware. You need to do the work, because it's just, like,
You
to
need
get
to.
out of that cycle of pain, to, like,
Hmm.
not pass it on to your generation, because a lot of people pass it on to their generations, to their kids, to
Yeah.
they pass it on, and then they start to say, like, oh, it's generational curse.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like, nah, like, you haven't worked on yourself, you haven't healed from your past trauma.
Hmm.
There's no such thing as generational curse. Maybe there is, I don't know, but
There
you need
definitely
to
is
work on
levels to it.
yourself.
Hmm.
Sorry.
I said there's levels to it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? There
yeah.
are some generational curses that you need to break, but you can't blame it mainly on generations. You know
No,
what I mean? Do your
no,
work.
not
Um,
everything is spiritual.
right. Abuchi says, I agree, but we have to educate each other on the way. Yes, love languages are very important.
Love languages. What is yours?
Love, my love language, I actually embody all of the love languages, but my top
Well,
two
yeah.
is
Yeah.
acts of service and oh, what's the other one called?
So there's words
Um,
of affirmation, acts of service,
that's the
physical
one. That's
touch,
the one.
quality
Words of
time.
affirmation and acts of service. The
Okay.
thing is, I don't need to necessarily hear you, I love you all the time. You know what I mean? Because I know. But now, if I'm sitting there, I'm stressed out, and you know that there's something that you can do to
You could
help
do.
me
Yeah. Right. Right.
to relieve that stress, and you do that without even me communicating that, I love you. That's just it. You know what I mean? Like, man, you actually took time to read me, read my body,
Mm-hmm.
and be like, oh man, my girl is stressed.
Right.
Let me
Right.
just do that. What's your love language?
Mine is quality time and physical touch, and those are the first two.
Hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Timmy Diet says, what do you guys think about a woman being the richest provider? I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. Whoever wants to be the richest is the
As a
richest. You know what I mean?
feminist,
Like, hey, but
hey,
I think that if a woman is a breadwinner, that she's a breadwinner, the thing now is men feeling, some men, not all men,
feeling
feel
emasculated,
that's the word,
intimidated.
emasculated, because, oh, now the woman is making X amount of money more than
Girl, those are
me.
not the kind of men you need to
You
be
should be
with.
with.
You
Thank
know,
you. You need somebody to be your partner. Like I said, your partner, not your husband, not your spouse, not your wife, your partner. And if that person is like, if you're sitting there like, oh, I made this much money, they should even have pom poms out, just like cheering you on. You know what I mean? That's
hmm
your partner. If somebody feels emasculated or anything about that, that's not who you need to be with.
and if you are with a woman that's constantly pressuring you to be that man and that guy that
Leave.
just
Leave.
that's not the woman you need to be with, honey.
It's just that. You need to
You
be
know,
partners. You need to be each
yeah,
other's cheerleaders. You need to
right,
be each other's coach. You need to
right.
be each other's teammate.
hmm
You
And
know what I
there's
mean?
no like rule book on everything. Like I feel like every relationship is different, every marriage is different. There's no
Mhm.
rule book. Like whatever works for you guys at the end of the day, to each their own.
To each their own. Whatever helps you sleep at night. You know what I mean? If you're
Yes.
staying up at night because your wife is making more money than you, bruh, you
You
have
need to work on
issues.
yourself. You need to
That's
work on that
it.
self love that we talk about. You need to work on
Right. Self
self
love. You should sit there and be
care.
like, shit, I know
Yeah.
if you bring equal things to the table,
Mm-hmm.
that's all you need to worry about. It doesn't have to be the same things you put on the table, because everybody has different things they can bring to the table of
Mm-hmm.
relationships,
I
and not
actually,
just marriages,
yeah.
relationships, friendships, your parents. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? If you
Right.
put equal amount of things on the table, you're good, and that table is stable, you're
Agreed.
fine. If the legs of the table are wiggling and shit, you need some grounding. You need some
Right.
grounding. But as long as you're bringing shit to the table in order for you guys to be stable, you're fine. You are
Right.
just